Okay.
Hey,
So I think it's steady now.
okay, you're good.
Yes. The thing is that Amazon Web Services are down, so it could be something related to that.
Okay, okay. All right, let's see. We have some people joining. So then we'll just start it up. So hi everybody. This is a Talking Wellbeing page, and we have the lovely Shibani here with us. She's also a video journalist as well as a legal correspondent. So after this video, if you guys need any tips, she's actually in Vancouver, Canada. So that's like, most of the laws that she knows, but we're going to listen to her journey and you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, so, as you said, my name is Shibani Gokhale. I'm a video journalist. I'm based in Vancouver. I'm a legal correspondent. I do a lot of my legal correspondence on TikTok, where I have a different platform. And a lot of my video journalism is for the companies that I work with, mostly Yahoo News. That's who, like Yahoo News Canada. That's who I primarily work with. I also freelance with Daily Hive Vancouver, the Quint and On Canada project. So that's who I do like my video journalism for, which is mostly like politics, news, COVID, travel, weather, basically anything, any kind of news.
Wow. So you started off in law and now you're in journalism. So how's that shift?
Um, so the thing is, when I was in like eighth grade, I read this book by a journalist and I was really moved. It was about child sexual abuse. She traveled all over India, and she wrote about child sexual abuse in rural India, something that, we'd not even thought of. And it was because of her that a new law was enacted in India to protect children from sexual abuse. And I thought that was so impressive that just her work by itself was enough to enact an entire legislation. So I was really driven towards being a journalist back then itself. But I couldn't leave India due to, some family reasons. My grandmother was sick, so I decided to stay there. And at that time, we didn't have really good journalism schools around my grandmother's house, which is where I wanted to live. But, one of India's best law schools was located like 10 minutes from her place. So I thought, you know what? Law is the same thing. I can make a difference in law. So I picked law. I really liked it. I definitely really liked it. I almost thought, I'd become a lawyer, but towards the end, I was like sort of drawn back towards journalism. And
Mm-hmm.
then I decided to do my master's. I applied to a bunch of places. I even then I wasn't 100% sure if I would shift, but I applied to Columbia University, which is the best journalism school in the world. And for me, it was
Mm-hmm.
like if I get into Columbia, that means I'm meant to be a journalist, and I got it. And I feel like for me, that was okay. The decision was almost made at that point, and that's how I basically switched.
Wow, so everything lined up for you. That's amazing.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. So then how has like, journalism been for you? I know that we had conversations prior, but do you want to elaborate like how mental health ties into journalism?
I think when I started my journalism journey, things had already changed because I started journalism school in 2016, which is, when Trump became president. So obviously there was a huge dynamic shift in the US. And then I moved to Canada around the time that COVID started, which was another huge dynamic shift. So I feel like since the time that I became a journalist, there have been like massive changes that have happened in the world, which have affected people's mental health. And I feel as a journalist who's on the front lines of the news, it affects us a little more. Like if something is changing, something bad happens, if someone say dies, then we're the first ones to know about it. And then we have to, look for the right story. Sometimes you have to talk to people who've been through it, which can be a trauma in itself. Like, yes, of course, the people we talk to are also extremely traumatized, but listening to their stories firsthand can also be really traumatic. And it's difficult to switch it off in your brain. Like, even after you're done with work, sometimes you're thinking about it. Oh my God, there were 100,000 people that died because of this reason. And it's difficult to just be like, okay, I'm done with work. I'm not going to think about anyone that was like hurt or dead today. It's hard to switch it off. And which is why I think mental health is so important to talk about for journalists, and it's not talked about enough, and I definitely think that it should be.
Wow, yeah, that's now that you think about it, especially working in the health field, like hearing like, people dying and stuff like that, like you can't just turn your brain off to it. You're right,
No.
it definitely sits with you. And then we're
Yeah,
all
for your
human
field
as
too,
well.
nurses, doctors, I feel like they're on the front lines of COVID, and that's really difficult to
Yeah.
live through every day. So of course mental health needs to be talked about, anyone on the front lines of anything bad that's happening right now.
That's so right. Especially like you touched on, like when COVID started, everybody was stressed. Everybody was like putting their stress on you, and everything became upside down, really. But things are getting better now gradually. I had a question for you. So when you, like you said, after work and everything, how do you like unwind your mind? Like how do you like find ways to get over like some of the things that happened in the world?
For me, my biggest thing is once I'm done with work, I'm super addicted to fiction. I love reading. I love watching shows. I love watching movies. I'm 100% fiction addict. Like it's something,
Hmm.
I'm a binge watcher. I sometimes have a problem how to stop watching or stop reading. But it actually really helps my mental health because and the thing is, I don't read realistic fiction. What I read is maybe fantasy or something that's like, about witches or wizards. I'm a big Harry Potter
Hmm.
fan,
Oh,
obviously.
nice.
So I just like love to read things that are not real and are not
Hmm.
super close to the real world either. And I think
Hmm.
that really helps me because it's almost like being transported into a different life. And I
Hmm.
also don't read or watch too much depressing stuff. I try to watch like sitcoms. If I'm going to watch realistic things, then I watch like sitcoms. I like New Girl, stuff like that. So that makes me happy. For me, the biggest way to unwind is through fiction. I think that's what helps me the most.
I think I could agree with you on that. I'm like a big anime fan as well. So like me watching anime and like reading like the subtitles and stuff like that, it helps like clear my mind. And like you said, it like puts you in like you feel like you're in another realm sometimes. Like you're not even like
Yes.
too focused on the outside
Yes.
world. You're like in your own little zone, and you're
Exactly.
laughing at the TV, enjoying your time.
There's
That's
no
really,
COVID
yeah,
there. And
yeah.
that's like no COVID, no politics, nothing, just away from all that. So
Hmm.
that's the best part.
Yeah, the fiction part is a big part as well. Like it helps with imagination. I feel like I try to tell people that like, yeah, we're grown, but tapping into cartoons and like, fictional things is always like a good thing to do. Just help escape
100%. I still
reality.
watch Arthur. I love Arthur, the PBS Kids show. I still watch it
Yeah.
sometimes. It's so cute. So
Hmm.
I 100% support that. Reading Harry
Hmm.
Potter. I mean, it's a kid's book, but it makes people so happy. So.
You're right about that. Help clear the mind, take the mind off things. So yeah, that is one of that's a tip right there, guys. If you're in a stressful job or in a stressful situation, find time to get out, find time to leave the zone.
I feel like
Okay.
something froze.
Yeah, it like paused on my end for some reason, but like I was saying
Okay, I think it's
earlier,
back.
like
Yeah.
try to find time to escape and clear your mind and like read books or read anime or just watch a cartoon every now and then. Like these things are very helpful, I feel like. And then we had spoke earlier. Another thing that I feel like is exercising. Some people do yoga, some people go for a run and stuff like that. Like these things will help, with your mind because it's tapping into like the receptors of happiness. It builds endorphins in the mind and dopamine and stuff like that. So, these are things that when you're looking into mental health, you should like, try to correlate, what makes me happy, what makes me feel love. And then when you're having a stressful day, just do it and tap in.
Yeah, exercise is, a super helpful way to cope. I am guilty of not exercising as much as I should. But I do know that, every time I do exercise, it does help because, it releases endorphins. You feel really good about yourself. If you have any weight goals or body goals, you feel like you've taken a step towards achieving that. You just feel healthy immediately. So I really do think exercise has great benefits, and you can, pick what you like. For example, I really like Bollywood dancing. So I have like a Bolly X subscription that I really like to do. So you can make exercise fun if you don't like going to the gym or you don't like running outside because in Canada it's really cold and rainy. So sometimes you can't go outside. So like picking an exercise that makes you feel happy, uh, that is a better way to exercise than just being like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym 1 hour every day. That's almost unrealistic. It doesn't happen. So to
Hmm.
find something that's more realistic, I think really does help.
Yes, that is true. Like, we're all different, but like I said, tap into yourself, sit down and, see what you like, see what makes you happy, and then whatever it is, just tap into it. Like, it'll definitely work. Another question I had for you is that a lot of people, like you said, they don't fully understand like mental health and mental awareness. What would you say for them to, help them better understand what it's about?
I think that there's a lot of stigma attached to the words mental health. You say the words mental health issues, and people are all up in flames and they're like, she's crazy, he's crazy. I feel like we need to like stay away from labels like that. We need to stop calling people insane. If someone says that they have depression, then I think we also need to change how we respond to people. If someone says that they're feeling depressed, don't tell them, hey, just be happy or learn to smile more. Those are not good solutions for depression. I think the biggest way to counter it is to just
No, you're okay. You're all right.
okay, yeah. So I think the biggest way to counter it is to just talk to people and think through your responses before you respond to them, which will help reduce stigma. And it's to, for example, if someone says that they're depressed, why is it your first reaction to think, oh my God, they're crazy? Where does that come from? So like, take a step back. If that's the thought, the first thought that comes to your head, then take a step back, reevaluate. You'd be like, okay, well, I've read about depression and it's not craziness, it's not insanity. And then, respond appropriately. So I think the biggest issue, especially in communities of color, I feel like we didn't necessarily grow up being talked to about mental health. So I think creating awareness is the first step. Just being like, having a mental health issue does not make anything worse. It's good to know. In fact, the first step towards solving anything is to just knowing what you have. So I'll create awareness about the issue.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. It's definitely for you, take time and like understand these things, go online, do research, watch videos because the brain is just an organ in our body. Like we have a heart, we have kidneys, and all these organs could get infected. We have all these names for heart disease or kidney disease or liver disease. So when it comes to mental health and mental awareness, when the brain is not functioning properly. It's just a disease in the brain and it's real.
Exactly.
It's not
Yeah,
imaginary. Like something there's a
exactly.
chemical imbalance in there. And that's what people need to like understand. Like listen to what people tell you. If you have friends and family out there that are taking their time to open up to you, don't just say they're crazy or anything. Try to listen to them more, see where they're coming from and see if you can help. If not, try and point them in the right direction.
Exactly. 100%.
hmm so let me see, what else did we touch base on? Are you a big advocate on like Western medication therapy or like just a healthy, holistic lifestyle? What's your approach?
I feel like a good balance is good. My mom's a doctor, so of course I always grew up around Western medicine. I'm not really against it, but I also don't think that like pills for anxiety are magic pills. Like just taking, I'm on anti-anxiety medication. I take a small pill every single morning, but I also don't think that, it's a magic pill. It's not going to do anything by itself. It will require some concentrated effort on my part. Now, for me, I don't feel like my anxiety is so bad that I need necessarily like weekly or monthly therapy. I do, touch base with my doctor every couple of months to just talk about like, do I need therapy? Is that something to think about? There's nothing wrong with getting therapy. I think it can help through so much, especially, if you have trauma from childhood that you've not processed and that is contributing to your mental health issues. I think therapy is a really good place to sort of unpack that. So I'm not for or against anything. I think like a good combination and a good balance of everything is really important. You can't just be like, okay, I take a pill every day and that's it, I'm done, I'm not going to do anything else. It will require some effort on your part. For example, if you struggle getting out of bed, then I think trying and setting some kind of a schedule where you can get out of bed along with your pill, that's what helps. Like if you struggle to eat, then to structure your timetable in such a way that you eat at the right time. Then trying and exercising. So I think it's a combination of things. Don't skip therapy if you have an appointment. Don't skip it even if you're feeling down. Or another thing is that people tend to skip therapy if they're feeling really happy. They think, oh well, this week's been amazing, I feel really good, so I'm not gonna see my therapist. That's not a good idea. You should see the therapist. You should tell them that, I actually feel really happy today. And then you can, get into that. Maybe they'll cut it short because maybe you don't need counseling that week. So that's something that I think I advocate for, like a good balance of all three.
I definitely agree with you. Like you said, some people think that, only to touch on one of those things would like solve all the problems, like whether it's just meds or just holistic or like just talking to somebody. Like you need a balance of all three, honestly.
Yeah.
And I agree because the meaning behind us opening talking well-being is for that reason alone. Like in our community, people look at it as taboo to talk about these things, talk
Yeah.
about their feelings and what's going on in their mind. So I decided to, start up talking well-being just so we could get more people of color talking about it online so it could inspire others to be open and to seek a coach or a mentor, and maybe even a therapist, somebody to just talk to and help you alleviate all the thoughts in your mind. And then
Yep.
like you
And
touched based on, oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say that, it's never too late to get diagnosed. A lot of people think, oh my God, I'm 30 now. Like, am I really going to get diagnosed? For example, I got diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 28. ADHD, something that people think only kids have it, but that's not true. Anyone can have ADHD. Well, I did have it since I was a kid, but it went undiagnosed. So there's nothing wrong with going to a doctor and being like, you know what, something feels off. Can I get a diagnosis, please? And can we move forward? And working towards getting a diagnosis. So I really also advocate for that. If you feel like something's wrong, then go see your doctor and go see your coach and be like, I think I need to get diagnosed for something. And it's okay if you're diagnosed with, ADHD at the age of 28. It's fine. Like there's no harm in it. And I feel like since I got diagnosed, I've actually been doing so much better because now if I feel like I'm doing something, for example, as people with ADHD tend to be really impulsive. So if I feel like I'm making a really impulsive decision, I now think, wait, I do have ADHD. So is this decision that I'm making like an impulsive decision, or would like some other rational person make the same decision in that time? So just being diagnosed, even if you're not taking medication or not taking therapy, can help you so much in just taking a step back and reevaluating yourself. So get diagnosed at whatever age you're at.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. It's always good to tap in and know yourself because once you know yourself, you're able to see, okay, am I doing this too much? And then you can fall back or you can, move forward. So you
Exactly.
definitely touched a great point on that. For our listeners out there, definitely take the time out to, know yourself. Don't just always want to like be impulsive and like just be outside and do all these like outside things. You need to just sit down in your room and then just think about yourself. You can even ask like friends and family, like what are like two or three things, like two or three words that define me. And then whatever like correlates and matches, you'll then start to picture, okay, I'm this type of person. And then, you'll know how to move better. That was a great tip right there that you brought up for sure. And then let me see, what else did we touch base on? Mm-mm-mm. Anything else that you wanted to bring up before we kind of wrap it up? Anything you wanted to tell to our followers?
Well, another really good coping technique that I didn't touch on is taking a break from social media. I think it's really important. I'm active on all platforms. I have a really active TikTok. I'm really active on Instagram, really active on Twitter. Facebook, I think, is the only one that I don't really use. But taking breaks from social media is so important, especially if you happen to be a social media creator. It feels like counterintuitive advice, but it will actually make you a better creator if you're not on social media 24/7. People think that, oh, if I have to create content on TikTok, I need to be scrolling TikTok all the time. That's actually not true. Taking some downtime away from TikTok might give you better ideas to make good TikTok content. And especially if you're a journalist, I think taking a break from news, like sometimes I won't take a break from social. I'm still scrolling, watching funny videos, comedy stuff, dances, but I won't watch any news because it's like you should take a break from what you do for 8 hours a day. Because, for example, right, you work in healthcare, then you should ideally not be reading healthcare stuff in your downtime. Otherwise, you're just going to
Hmm.
be in that zone the entire time. So that's what I would recommend, taking social media breaks and taking breaks from your profession. And in whatever way that they come to you, whether it's because you watch too much TV news or whether it's because you read too many articles, than to just be like, okay, I'm not going to do anything for an hour. I recently started doing the New York Times crossword. I think that really helps because it's, like 35, 40 minutes of nothing else. Like I'm just focused on doing the crossword. I know people like to color, like adult coloring is coming back, which I think is cool. I haven't tried it yet, but I think it's a nice way to like just disconnect from the world.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like that. I think disconnecting from social media is really useful for creators, especially.
Yes, you definitely touched on a big part on that, like creators, entrepreneurs, and anybody that's required to be on social media for their job or occupation. Just know that you do need breaks. And, the more breaks you take, the more it help clear your mind for you to be better at your craft. Like, don't think you need to be on it all the time to get better. That's actually hurting yourself. You do need to clear your mind and clear your thoughts. That was a great point you brought up. Also, I would delete my Instagram app for like a day or so sometimes, even though I have business online, just because like the scrolling, the likes, and
Yep.
watching videos, all of that is just taking a part of you, and you're never gonna fully recover your mental. So always find
You know,
time to like build on that. Go ahead.
Another thing is like curate your social media to stuff that makes you happy. For example, if you're following someone whose posts just don't make you happy, like they make you unhappy for some reason, don't keep following them. It's like, poking at a wound, if you have a wound, you keep poking at it. Don't do that. Like it's good to
Hmm.
curate social media. I feel like people are so reluctant to be like, oh, I don't want to insult anyone by unfollowing them. I don't want to do that. But there's nothing wrong with that. Like your mental health comes first. So apart from taking breaks, I think curating your social media is also really, really good. Like if something makes you unhappy, then don't follow it. Like on Twitter, I think you can like block certain keywords. So if there are like certain parts of politics that I just don't even want to see. So I would just like block those words on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna fry my brain looking at what these people are saying. So that's also
Hmm.
something that can really help.
Wow, I hope you guys heard that. That's another great tip right there. You're on the road tonight.
Yeah.
But definitely curate, your page and like anything you do. Oh, yes, and you can mute the person too.
Yes.
Yes, that's also a good one. Yeah, so these are all things you can do, to the phone just went away. But yes, these are all things you can do to help with your mental health. Like, don't think you're stuck to following this person because it's the cool thing to do, or you don't want to hurt their feelings. If they're posting negative things and it's not sitting right with you, then sometimes you just have to mute it, block it, and just let it go. Like,
Yep.
going on social media should make you happy, not make you depressed. So if
Exactly.
you're having this recurrent feeling of getting depressed and sad every time you look through your phone, and you're scrolling, then you need to make a change.
100%.
Hmm. Anybody else have any questions before we wrap it up? Anybody also has any tips they can share?
I like the mute people too. That's a good tip. It's not something I thought of.
Hmm. Okay. So then we're about to wrap this up. I appreciate you taking time out and talking with us about mental health and how like is underappreciated and journalism and everything else, especially people of color. Like our families never brought us up on talking about these topics or even gave us the outlet to express ourselves properly. So coming on social media and us doing this right now, hopefully it inspires people to either do the same or to seek out a coach or somebody to talk to, just because we weren't raised that way, and it's really beneficial to talk and express yourself.
Yep, basically. Thank
Hmm.
you so much for
So I'm
having me.
gonna,
This was such a great
yes,
chat.
of course. Hopefully I'll have you again, and then you can also give us some legal advice as well, because
Yes, for
like
sure.
yeah. And if anybody needs legal advice or if anybody's in Vancouver or thinking about anything about Vancouver, this is the person to hit up. All right. All
Yes.
right. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you so much.
No problem.